Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel and today we will discuss the situation in Ukraine on the 9th of May. Today we will not discuss the successes of the Ukrainians, but we will more concentrate on the progress of the Russians. And the most important news comes from Bilohorivka. The Russians still managed to open another front line. Let's remember how events unfolded in this region. Many videos ago, I told you that the most important part in the Donbas Arc operation was to establish control over the town Liman, over this area. To be more precise, over the territory on the south of Liman. First of all, the main idea was to establish fire control over this road that connects the Izum area with the Bakhmut, the area where the Ukrainians have their powerful fist. And the Russians, they started their movement in these directions a week or maybe 2 weeks ago. Around a week ago, when the Russians were in the town Zarechne, I told you that another important task for the Russians in this area is not just to take town Liman and to push Ukrainian forces on that side of the Lysychansk river. I told you that one of the most important tasks for the Russians is to establish control over this territory, over this area. And the main idea of establishing control over this territory was to open another front line. And I told you that if the Russians was able to establish control over this territory, then they would be able to attack town Seversk. And we discussed that Seversk is a very powerful and big railroad station. And if Russians are able to establish control over this railway station, that means that they will be able to move here a lot of vehicles, a lot of heavy armor. In the middle of the previous week, the governor of Lysychansk area told us that there was shooting battles in Bilohorivka. And I understood that the Russians were planning to establish the second front line not in this area, but they decided to establish the front line in the town, near the town Bilohorivka, somewhere here. Mainly, as far as I understood, mainly it was they changed their mind because of the fire in this area. A lot of fire in this area. You can check those fires in my Telegram channel. I published the video and the screens of that fire so you can understand what's going on there. So the Russians, according to the words of the governor of Lysychansk area, he said that the Russians attacked Bilohorivka. As far as I understood, they sent their scout groups, their commanders. And the main idea of those scout groups was to find the positions of Ukrainians in this town. A few days later, we got information from the Russian side, and this information was confirmed by Ukrainian side, that there were shooting battles in town Serebryanka, in Bilohorivka, in town Shipilivka, and in town Privilya. Few hours later, we got the video how the Russians were bombing these buildings. As far as understood, the Ukrainians, they used this building as an edge of the Ukrainian defense in this area, on this side of the Lysychansk river. So the Russians, they were bombing these buildings and they reduced these buildings to ruins. Of course, Ukrainians, they understood that something wrong was happening there. That's why they sent there a lot of their forces. Around more than 100 soldiers. Maybe there was some soldiers there, maybe there wasn't a lot of soldiers, but we can say that by the end of the day, there was around 100 soldiers from Ukrainian side. And the main task of those soldiers were to give a fight to the Russians if they were planning to cross this river. But as I told you, in this area there was a lot of scouts, Russian scouts. And these scouts were waiting to find out where the Ukrainian troops were planning to stay for a rooming house. And they found out. There was a school in this area, and the Ukrainians stayed overnight in the basement of this school. Later that evening, the Russians attacked that school, and those attacks reduced the school to ruins. And we can say that the Ukrainians, they lost more than 60% of their soldiers in this area. 40% of those soldiers were on the front line, on the edge of the front line. Those 60 was in the basement. And of course, as soon as this building was destroyed, a lot of forces were forced to move from the front line to the rescue operation. And we can say that on the edge of the front line, there were not much of Ukrainian forces. After that, the Russians, they started their fake operation. They started to build their pontoon bridges on the west from this town. This is the Bilohorivka, and the Russians, they started to build their pontoon bridges here. A lot far in the west side. Very far from this side. You see that there is the Bilohorivka. This is the place where this building was attacked. There's the school. And the Russians started their pontoon operation here, very far from that place. And according to the Russian sources and according to the Ukrainian sources, this information was confirmed by the both sides. Ukrainians, they spotted those pontoon bridges. They attacked those pontoon bridges and they destroyed them. And there is a photo on the internet of a lot of Russian equipment destroyed by that attack. So we can say that that crossing attempt failed. Meanwhile, the Russians started another crossing attempt and they built their pontoon bridges right on the north of Bilohorivka, in this area. So they built here their pontoon bridges and they crossed the Seversky Donetsk river, and now they have their heavy equipment, heavy tanks, heavy armored equipment in Bilohorivka. And according to the latest information we got, the governor of Lysychansk area, he said that there is a heavy clashes in Bilohorivka, for Bilohorivka, and I think that sooner or later this town falls and the Russians will establish control over this town. But what is more important, they will establish control over these landfills, this landfill and this landfill. So for now there are heavy clashes there. Maybe this town already fall, I don't know, but let's move to this map and try to add some blue clouds in this area to have the better understanding of the Russian plans and Russian operation. So let's say that today, these minutes, there are heavy clashes here, and let's say that the Russians, they are able to establish control over this territory, because it's their main idea, it's their main goal to establish control over this territory. We will talk about this area a little bit later, but for now, let's move to Rubizhnoye, to the Lysychansk agglomeration. According to the latest information we got, the village Voyevodovka fallen. So let's update this according to the latest news. So we can say that Voyevodovka is under total Russian control. Also, I said before that this map is not updated because according to the Russian sources map, most part of the Rubizhnoye is under the Russian control. So another important news came today from the Lysychansk, from this area. The Russian military publics said that the reserves from this area were moved in unknown direction. I think that they were moved in direction of Bilohorivka. So we can say that Ukrainians, they moved their forces, their reserve in this direction. This is not very far from here. And of course, it's logical and obvious that they need to stop the Russian penetration attack in this area. Another important thing that we know that Severodonetsk is under very heavy fire, is under very heavy pressure from the Russians. They're attacking all the time among entire front line. They're attacking Severodonetsk from the forest, from every side. And one of the most important thing that came today also from the front lines, the Russians, they're saying that they established control over the manpowder plant, this area. And also they're saying that they control the north, at least the north part of the Rubizhnoye. So for now, to tell the truth, I don't have exact information what part of the city is really under Russian control, but let's update this map just for the better understanding, because as I know, they control maybe more than 80% of this town. But I can't tell exactly, are they controlling this industrial zone, or they're controlling just the place near the bridge and this road that connects Lysychansk and Rubizhnoye. I don't know, but for better understanding, let's mark it as you see right now on the screen. Now we are moving to the south, to Nizhnya Toshkivka Orechova Grachova area. And we got more news from this area today. And one of the most important news that we got today is that the Russians, they established total control over the village Nizhnya, and they moved to the north, in northwest, and now they're established control over the suburbs of Toshkivka, and that there are very heavy clashes in this town right now. So the Russians, they're moving from Nizhnya towards Toshkivka. Let's update the map according to this information. So Nizhnya is not just captured by the Russians, but this town is also cleared. So there is no Ukrainians, no mines, nothing there. And let's mark their destination. So they're moving to the west-north. So you see, now I hope you start see the picture. Of course, let's update the map regarding the Grachova and the Orechova. I told you that Grachova is under the Russians, and the Orechova, we can say that half of this town is under Russian control. And according to my information I have, they're trying to clear the Orechova totally. And as I told you, the main idea of the Russians in this area to establish control over this forest, and after that they will be able to cut this area in two pieces by attacking town Girske from this forest. Or maybe not, they won't even attack, but they will be able to establish fire control over this territory, and that means that this area will be split in two parts. Now let's move to Popasna. I found very interesting map about the Popasna. This is the map about Popasna. As you can see, these red things is the highest point in this valley, in this area. And according to the information I got, Popasna located on the highest hill in this area. So Popasna is very on top of everything in this area. As you can see, Severodonetsk is in the low place. This is the reason why Severodonetsk can't be taken totally until you take Lysychansk, because if you're controlling Lysychansk, you can control more than half of Severodonetsk, because it's like on the low land, and you're like on the top, and you can control, you can establish your eyes, you can correct your artillery attack, and so on. And some sources says that if you're controlling Popasna, and because of that fact that Popasna is on the hill, and it's the highest place, it's around 260 meters above the sea, level of the sea. Some sources said that you can control the territory in 30 kilometers around this town. So you see this line, this is 30 kilometers range, and you can establish fire control over this territory. And to confirm this piece of news, the governor of Lysychansk area, he told that the Russians established the fire control over this road from Bakhmut towards Severodonetsk and Lysychansk, this area. So we can say that the Russians control the road of life. Let's update this information on this map. This is the road, this is the only one highway, and it's just in 70 kilometers. But let's update. I don't want to show you like 30 kilometers, but because I'm not sure that the Russians are able to establish fire control over the 30 kilometers, but 80 kilometers I think it's enough for Popasna, for this area. So let's just mark the territory that the Russians control with their artillery for now. So we can say that the Russians, they're controlling this area from Popasna, and they're not they don't have forces there. they just have they can cut this area with their artillery. So they established the fire control over this road, this live road that connects Bakhmut and Lysychansk. And now let's move back again to our Bilohorivka, to this area and to these landfills. Let's take a look at these landfills from this map one more time. You see they are very high as well. Let's check if there is, as I see, there is no info about this landfill on this map because they are not like natural. I can't tell the exact height of this landfill, but I think, and we discussed this before, at least 10 kilometers they are able to control the territory around this town in 10 kilometers, something like this. So if you control these landfills, that means that you can control around 10 kilometers around the city. So now let's mark the area like control fire area. This is the area that the Russian has their fire control. Now let's take a look at this map. We can say that if the Russians are able to establish the full control over Bilohorivka, because we know that there are heavy clashes right now, that the Lysychansk, their center, their reinforcement, their reserves to stop the Russian invasion. We know that Popasna is already under the Russian control. We heard the news from the governor of this area that the Russians established fire control over this road and that now Russians are bombing the supplies and support between these two towns. We can see a very interesting picture. For example, the Russians in their war science, they say that there are few types of surroundings. They say that there are operational surrounding. They say that there are operational tactical surrounding, and blockade. And if you take a look at this map, we can say that the Russians, they have operational surrounding, that Ukrainians got into the small operational surroundings by the Russians. What does it mean operational? That means that Ukrainians, they still have possibility to move from, for example, Lysychansk towards Bakhmut, but there are very big risk being attacked by artillery and rockets by the Russians. So that means that you are like almost surrounded, but you still have possibility to move because you won't see the enemy in front of you when you will try to move from Lysychansk towards Bakhmut, but you can get under the fire. And of course, there is a big risk that you may be hurt by this fire or destroyed at all. So these operational surroundings. Another type of surrounding is operational tactical surroundings. What does it mean? For example, if the Russians are able to establish control over this territory, and by the way, I got this idea from one of our military summary community member. He told that would be very nice if the Russians are able to establish control over this plant. This is the oil refinery plant. So we can say that if the Russians, after they establish control over this Bilohorivka and they are able to move in this direction and establish control over this plant, let's mark. It's not true for now. There is no movement in this direction. We are just trying to understand what can be in the future. If the Russians are able to establish control over this town, that means that Lysychansk got into operational tactical surrounding. That means that there is almost no way to escape this area, and in any case there is a big chance that you will face enemy when you will try to escape, but there are still places where you can get through. At least if you want to build a convoy and to retreat from Lysychansk using the convoy towards the Bakhmut, it's impossible. Now you can, in this case, you can leave this territory just with the small groups. And for example, if the Russians are able, and I'm sure we discussed that before, some sources, I will start from the beginning, some Russian sources, they're saying that the Russians are planning to attack in direction of Bakhmut. I'm not sure about that. We discussed that there are a lot of forces there, that main Ukrainian forces in Popasna retreated in this direction, that there are fees there. Of course, the Russians, they can do this, But I think that they will spend a lot of time. It will be this Bakhmut is the same Popasna. It will be like a months of battles, and we are not sure about the results of these battles. But I think that the Russians are planning to move in direction of Vrubivka, this area. So we can say that there are plans to establish control over this territory. And if the Russians are able to establish control over Vrubivka, over this oil refinery plant, and Bilohorivka, we can say that Ukrainians, they got into tactical surrounding. That means that there is no way to escape this area at all. It's not a blockade. It's not a blockade. What is more worse. But I'm not sure that there is a need in blockade in this situation. For example, we can say about the blockade. For example, if the Russians are able to establish control over the Vrubivka, and they are able to establish control over this forest, we can say that the town Zolotoye would appear in blockade. It is the final stage of the surroundings, according to the Russian military science. And that's it for today. Thank you for watching, subscribe to my channel, and enjoy your weekend. Bye bye.